Hi, and welcome back to our channel, Alfonso the Rothschild, with your usual anchor and instructor, Ogochukwu Onwa. Today, we'll be talking about contractions and their use in affirmative sentences and negative sentences and interrogative sentences. That is, while learning how to write sentences in the affirmative, negative, and interrogative, we at the same time learn how to use contractions. So perhaps it might not be out of place to begin by asking, what are contractions? Of course, contractions is the English grammar word for the short form of verbs. In this short video, our attention will focus on contractions used in the present tenses. So, we would avoid contractions that are in the simple past or future tenses. We will take care of those ones at their own time, since we are still focusing our attention on the present tenses. So our contractions shall be with those verbs that are used in the present forms. First of all, what are the verbs involved in contractions? They are generally referred to as auxiliary verbs. The auxiliary verbs are of two kinds. One set of auxiliary verbs are called primary auxiliaries. To be, to have, and to do are known as the primary auxiliary verbs. Then the other auxiliary verbs are called modal. The other auxiliary verbs are called modal auxiliary verbs. And they include 10 to 11 or 12 verbs. And some of the ones we call primary auxiliary verbs also double as modal auxiliary verbs. But more of these later on in other lessons. For today, we focus on contractions in affirmative, negative, and interrogative sentences made in the present tenses. Let us take examples of the verb to be in the present form. That is to be, am, is, and are. Those are the present forms. And to have, and has. Those are the present forms. And to do, and does are the present forms. Sentence 1. We will write 5 affirmative sentences. What is an affirmative sentence? You can also call it positive. Positive sentence. It is a sentence that makes a statement of fact. A sentence that can be interpreted to mean true or yes. Now let us take an example. I am an instructor of the English language. I am an instructor of the English language is an affirmative sentence. It's a statement of fact because it is true. Number 2 says, Celia is a pet lover. This is also a statement of fact or an affirmative sentence. Sentence 3 says, George and Edwin are keen practitioners of badminton. George and Edwin are keen practitioners of badminton. Number 4 says, Carlos and Cyril have a shared interest in real estate. So we have because Carlos and Cyril is a plural subject. Have a shared interest in real estate. Real estate is the business of buying and selling lands and buildings. Sentence 5 says, Edith has a decade experience in ballroom dancing. Edith has a decade experience in ballroom dancing. That is also an affirmative sentence. Number 6 says, the William boys do their piano lesson at the coach's house. In number 7, the sentence is, thus Nicola Elliott. She does stamp collection for the local archive. In all 7 sentences, we have used the present forms of these auxiliary verbs. Remember that I said that only auxiliary verbs are capable of contraction in English language. Other verbs, the non-auxiliary verbs, the ones that were referred to as lexical or main verbs, are incapable of contraction in English language. So in number 1, the verb is am. In number 2, we underline is. In number 4, we underline are. In number 3, we underline are. In number 4, we underline have. In number 5, we underline has. In number 6, we underline do. In number 7, we underline does. Each verb has been used to agree with the number or person of its subject. For instance, in number 1, the pronoun I is first person, singular, and it goes with am. In number 2, the noun Celia is third person, singular, and the verb is. In number 3, George and Elliot are third person, plural, and the verb is are. Number 4, Carlos and Cyril are third person, plural, and the verb is have. And in number 5, Edith is singular, third person singular, and the verb is has. And in number 6, the William boys is third person plural, and the verb is do. While in number 7, she is third person singular, and the verb is does. These are sentences we say are affirmative or positive. That means each of them is a statement of fact. We can interpret each sentence to mean is true or to mean yes. That is, yes, I am an instructor. Yes, Celia is a pet lover. Yes, George and Edwin are keen practitioners of badminton. And yes, Carlos and Cyril have a shared interest in real estate. And of course, yes, Edith has a decade experience in ballroom dancing. 6, yes, it is correct to say the William boys do their piano lesson at the coach's residence. That means it is true. That's a statement of fact. And she does stamp collection is also a fact. So sentences like this are said to be affirmative. Now, we change these sentences to negative. Negative sentences. Negative sentences. Good. As we make each of these sentences, each of 7 sentences, negative, we now learn how to contract each of these verbs with underlined. Good. Let us go on. So number 1 is, I am an instructor of English grammar. Good. The negative means not true. Remember that I said that the affirmative sentence means true or yes. The negative is the opposite, means not true. So make a sentence negative in English. What we do is that we add the word not. We add the word not to the verb that is affirmative. For instance, the verb in number 1 is am. If we add not to am, it becomes am not. So we will now write, I am not. Then the contraction of am not is and. I ain't. Because this contraction is in fact not popular. In modern English, many people prefer using I aren't. Though aren't should actually mean are not. But many say I aren't either because they do not know about ain't, or because of the fact that it is not so popular that very few people use it. So we say I ain't an instructor. I am an instructor of English language. I ain't an instructor, or I am not an instructor of English language. So we now wipe a part of our board and continue. The second sentence, that is number 2, says, Celia is a pet lover. So we now say, Celia is not, and the contraction is isn't. Isn't a pet lover. A lover of pets is a pet lover. Now I must tell you immediately that the final T in a contraction is a silent letter, a silent sound. Good. So we say ain't. I am an instructor, but not ain't. And you say isn't, not isn't. Isn't. You say Celia isn't a pet lover. Celia is not a pet lover, or Celia isn't a pet lover, not isn't. I'm sure that is clear. Then the contraction must be written correctly if it is in writing. If you're writing it, not speaking, the writing must be done correctly. The apostrophe, this punctuation mark, comes before the final T, but not after it. It is a final mark before the final T. It doesn't come before the N, no. It doesn't come before the letter N, and it doesn't come after the letter T. It comes after the N and before the T. You must write it correctly. In an exam situation, in a WIAC exam letter writing or essay writing, or in your response to comprehension questions, you use contractions. You must punctuate them correctly, otherwise you lose marks. Let us go on. Number 3. Number 3 says, George and Edwin are keen practitioners of badminton. So when I say George and Edwin, then we add not to are, and that gives us are not. Are not. are not, is not, am not. Are not becomes aren't when we contract. So the contraction of are not is aren't, aren't, not aren't, aren't, aren't. You say George and Edwin aren't keen practitioners, aren't keen practitioners. Aren't keen practitioners of badminton. Aren't keen practitioners of badminton. Four, Carlos and Cyril have shared interest in real estate. We now say Carlos and Cyril have not, we add not to have, or we use the contraction haven't. Like I said already, it shouldn't be haven't. Haven't a shared interest. A shared interest. A shared interest in real estate. In real estate. And that takes us to sentence 5. And sentence 5 says, Edith has a decade experience in ballroom dancing. So we don't say Edith has not, or say Edith hasn't a decade experience hasn't a decade experience in ballroom dancing. In ballroom dancing. Six, the William boys we say do not, and the contraction becomes don't. The William boys don't do their piano lesson. Don't do their piano lesson at the coach's residence. At the coach's residence. The William boys do not, or the William boys don't do their piano lesson at the coach's residence. And number 7 says, does Nicola Elliott Nicola Elliott. She does stamp collection. Now becomes she does not, and does not becomes doesn't. She doesn't do stamp collection for the local archive. She doesn't do, she does not do, or she doesn't do stamp collection for the local archive. Good. You see, when you use verbs, that is auxiliary verbs, like do and have, in a contraction, negative contraction. Good. And then the tense is present perfect. The word that comes after the contraction is called the infinitive. It's actually the present form, the bare infinitive, the present form. The form of the verb, the base form of the verb, or the form a verb takes before changes begin to occur in it. So we say does not do, but not does not did, or does not does. No. The do is the base form of the verb to do. You say has not had, has not done, has not taken. So that is the way it should be. But we'll be learning more of this as we go on. I know you have questions. Please, if there are questions that agitate your mind, do good to leave those questions on the comment section. You can always reach me via other channels. You can send me an email at alfonsotherothschild@gmail.com, or you can send me a WhatsApp post on the number 091 330 1790, or you can call my hotline 0806 5422 624. Now let us continue. Is. Now look at the word is. Is contractions. We've already talked about is here, and we've seen examples of some constructions using is. But is used quite commonly, and sometimes there is a confusion between is and has, both as contractions. So we'll talk about them together. Is and has. Now let's take a look at the examples that I have in mind. The sentence number 1 here says, Nick isn't here. He's been ill. In this example, many listeners and even readers will think that the contraction he apostrophe s means he is. No. The reason for the confusion is that he is written exactly in the same way. But in a construction like this means has. He's been ill means he has been ill. So let us take a look at other such example. This second sentence says, thus, meaning that is. So the apostrophe and s here means is. Thus, Chelsea, she's Amanda's cousin. The second contraction also means is. So it stands for she is. Three. Now this question says, where's the road to the library? Where's the road to the library? And there is an answer which says, here's the road. Here's the road. Here's the road. Meaning here is the road. And the next question here says, who's in the living room? Meaning, who is in the living room? And the answer is, Pat is there. And sentence 5 here says, Dan was here. He's walked away. He's here means he has. He has walked away. Then the other contraction has to do with have. Have. Let us take the first question. Or the first sentence. I beg your pardon. Have. 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 It means I have. The sentence says, I've been to Frankfurt several times. The verb have retains this contraction, apostrophe, and VE with all the pronouns. So we talk about you've, meaning you have. We've, meaning we have. And they've, meaning they have. But with she, we have this, meaning has. She's, meaning she has. His, meaning he has. And its, meaning it has. But like I remarked earlier on, this contraction can also mean she is, he is, it is. She has, she is. He has, he is. It has, it is. It is the context, that is sentence where it is used and how it is used in that sentence that makes the contraction either has or is. I believe all these are clear. If that is the case, remember that our discussion today is threefold. We've talked about affirmative and negative. Now we talk about interrogative. We will now talk about interrogative. That is question form. Question form. I am an instructor of English language. Now, when we make the interrogative sentence, we use a method, a formula called inversion. Inversion. To invert means to swap places. So if I say I am, that is affirmative. But if I say am I, then that becomes interrogative. Am I an instructor of English language? Then the interrogative must end with a question mark. The interrogative can also have a question, it can also have a negative form. So there can be an interrogative, a negation of the interrogative. So that am I an instructor of English language can be am I not, negation. Or I say ain't I an instructor of English language? Both we end with a question mark. Now, if we say a judge and Edwin, a judge and Edwin keen. A judge and Edwin keen practitioners of badminton. Then the question mark follows. Are George and Edwin keen practitioners of badminton? number 3 says, before we take number 3, let us negate the question under number 2. Says, are Judge and Edwin. We can now say, aren't Judge and Edwin? Aren't Judge and Edwin practitioners of badminton? Then the question mark closes the sentence. 3. Carlos and Nicola this is an omission because we are asking a question, so the verb should begin the sentence. So we say, are Carlos and Nicola Okay, the sentence we had there says it should be do. Do Carlos and Nicola share an interest in real estate? Then we can now say, don't they? Either you say, don't they, that means you use the pronoun they for Carlos and Nicola, or you say, don't Carlos and Nicola share an interest? So if we use the pronoun, we say, don't they share an interest in real estate? Question mark. So if we say, does, for Nelly, which is singular, does Nelly, then we use the infinitive, which is have. Does Nelly have, but not does Nelly has. We use the infinitive have. Does Nelly have a decade experience? A decade experience in ballroom dancing? Or we say, doesn't she? Doesn't she have, but not doesn't she has. Doesn't she have a decade experience in ballroom dancing? Full stop. All right, my esteemed viewers, if I am correct in saying that you have enjoyed my presence as much as I've enjoyed yours, then you have made my day. I ask you to help me make this video viral. Like, share this video so that it will get to others who, like you and I, would love to improve their communication ability in English. Subscribe to our channel so that my videos will be getting to you firsthand whenever new ones are published. Our discussion on the present tenses hasn't ended, but this particular topic today has gone to a point where we will not be able to continue. We've taken the much that we can, and I hope the much that we can, the much that we've been able to give you, satisfies your curiosity. On our next video, we will continue with contractions in affirmative, negative, and interrogative sentences. But in that video, we shall be focusing our attention on the modal auxiliary verbs. Remember that today we've talked about contractions using the primary auxiliary verbs. The verb to be, the verb to have, and the verb to do. As I invite you to join me in our next video, I wish that, like me, you will never stop learning, because they say knowledge is power, and those who have power rule the world. I wish you are one of them. Thank you.